All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're completely reframing sustainable development. We hear this term literally everywhere, but we're going to look at it not as some vague political buzzword, but as a precise, multi-step economic formula. It's basically a blueprint for exactly how we operate on this planet. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll hit the core definition, break down the three capitals, look at the four conditions, examine the environmental costs, and finally wrap up with some actionable strategies.
All right, Section 1, Core Definition.
So, sustainable development is basically development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. I really want to emphasize the crucial balance here. It absolutely acknowledges our current needs, right? We've got to build, we've got to eat, and we need to thrive. But the golden rule is that while fulfilling our needs today, we must leave our descendants the exact same capacity to thrive tomorrow. We basically can't steal from their future just to pay for our present.
Moving on to Section 2, the three capitals.
Now this is where it gets super interesting. This concept categorizes the drivers of long-term opportunity into three distinct buckets. To really get this, you kind of have to think like an economist looking at a bank account. First up is natural capital. This is our stock of natural resources, stuff like minerals, oil, forests, ocean fisheries, and the overall quality of our air, water, and soil. Think of this as the principal in your savings account. Next, we've got physical capital, which is our infrastructure, plants, machinery, factories, power, transport, you name it. And finally, human capital. That's our education, our skills, knowledge, and technical advancement. The real magic is in how these three interact. You see, our human capital, our brains basically, must be used to build physical capital in a way that actually protects rather than drains our natural capital. If you drain your savings principal to buy a fancy car, well, eventually you go bankrupt, right? It's the exact same here. We have to use human ingenuity to live off the interest of the earth, not its principle.
That brings us to Section 3, Four Conditions. Let's see how this all builds into a really actionable four-part checklist for true sustainability. Because sustainability is definitely not a passive state, it's an active, ongoing effort. According to our source material, you've got to hit these four core conditions. Step 1 is minimum depletion. We've got to actively conserve and improve the environment to minimize resource loss. Step 2. When we do use renewable resources, we have to do it in a way that doesn't degrade their usefulness for future generations. Actually, their usefulness should increase. Step 3. We absolutely must avoid the ruthless, wasteful exploitation of non-renewable resources, like oil and minerals. And finally, Step 4. We need to literally discard activities that cause a polluted environment. It's like a giant puzzle. If we miss even one of these steps, the whole formula just falls apart. So, okay, that's the theory. But what happens when we totally ignore these conditions? What's the stark, urgent reality of our current global trajectory?
Let's look at Section 4, environmental costs.
We really need to examine the devastating chain reactions that kick off when we blindly chase economic growth without thinking about long-term consequences. It's literally a domino effect. For example, when population growth drives up agricultural demand, we get extensive cultivation. And what does that do? It directly causes deforestation, turning vital forest land into farmland. Or take industrial waste. When we just dump it without a care, toxic chemicals and heavy metals create severe water pollution. And that doesn't just ruin rivers, it seeps down and contaminates our groundwater too. Then you've got gaseous emissions from rapid industrialization and power plants. That directly translates to air pollution, respiratory diseases, and a massive spike in greenhouse gases. And when we ruthlessly clear out tropical rainforests, we aren't just losing trees. We're causing a severe, irreversible loss of biodiversity, basically wiping out countless plant and animal species that took millions of years to evolve. It's wild.
And of course, the ultimate result of all those gaseous emissions is global warming. The downstream effects we're looking at here are terrifyingly specific. The source points out that glaciers across the Himalayas, retreating Mongolia, and the Alps are just disappearing year after year. And this isn't just about losing beautiful scenery. This directly threatens critical water supplies for dry countries like Western China, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. Plus, we're looking at rising sea levels that are going to cause massive coastal flooding and permanent displacement for so many people. Add to that drastic temperature changes that will completely mess with global food security by increasing drought and soil erosion. Oh, and major species extinction, simply because climate zones are shifting way faster than animals can actually adapt. Now, this next point forces us to completely rethink the math itself. It's widely recognized now that the depletion of natural resources and environmental degradation must be treated as an actual, literal cost of development.
So the key takeaway here is that environmental damage isn't just some ecological side effect, it's a hard economic cost. Think about it. If the benefits of rising incomes are totally wiped out by the healthcare costs of pollution, well, you can't really call that development, can you? We literally have to deduct these environmental costs from our national income to get a realistic picture of our growth rates. If you destroy a whole forest just to build a factory, you haven't just generated profit, you spent your natural capital.
And that brings us to Section 5, Actionable Strategies.
Remember that human capital we talked about earlier? Well, this is exactly where we use it to course correct. First off, we have to replenish resources. We need to make sure the extraction of renewables never outpaces how fast they naturally renew. We've also got to adopt eco-friendly tech ASAP. Things like GoBar gas, solar energy, and wind power really need to lead the charge here. Next up is transportation. We've got to shift away from petrol and diesel and move toward cleaner fuels like CNG and LPG. And for sure, we need to massively increase our use of public transport, like the metro, to cut down on all that private vehicle pollution. Out in the agricultural fields, developing organic farming with biocompost and biological pest control can literally save our soil. The bottom line? Human ingenuity caused this mess, but human ingenuity absolutely has the tools to fix it.
I want to share this really powerful quote from the source text. The stock of natural resources and quality of environment, like quality of air, water, and land, are common heritage for all generations. I love that because it just brings the whole concept right down to earth. Clean air, fresh water, healthy soil, these are shared inheritances. They aren't just endless commodities for our generation to squander. It's simply about guaranteeing the folks who come after us the exact same opportunities to thrive that we've had.
And that brings us to the ultimate question we all have to answer, both as a society and as individuals. Are we treating our planet as a resource to spend today, or a heritage to protect for tomorrow? Take a look at your own environmental footprint. Which path are you choosing? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.